Actually, that's usually not a good sign for all of you. If I have an idea that I want to communicate, it's usually not a great thing if I think about it like the night before, because then it keeps evolving. What I like about Michael is that as soon as I start talking, he just starts laughing. That's what he does. He's like, here we go again. He knows this from a lot of time here. It keeps evolving, and one of the thoughts I got, I know one of our students is like having a hard time, or body's changing a whole bunch of things, and it's like one of the things we know about the experience of disability is that it's hard, right? Kind of ridiculously hard, and it's relentless on one level, and requires constant managing. Simultaneously, one of the things that I hope that all of you find different ways to gain access to is that it feels good, life, right? So there's a constant exchange in interplay with a paradox that, like, you might be in a lot of physical pain, you might have a lot of fatigue, you might have like, how are you going to make it at the end of the day, right? Like, and yet trying to find access to, or allowing that might be true, and there's something else, and I don't just mean there's still humor and stuff, that at the core of it, at the core of being alive, that the experience itself actually feels good, right? And that the paradox of that being the case, and maybe unfortunately at times in each of our lives, you lose track of the fact that at the core of it, life does feel good. Ask yourself truthfully, have you lost touch with that? Right? And if so, what periods of your life have you lost touch with that? Right? That there are multiple realities going on simultaneously, right? So that the fact that both those things can be simultaneously true, right? That's not a paradox that the mind can fully understand, right? That's part of what I think underneath it all is part of what the practice of yoga is trying to reveal to you, is that there are, so, I could go back and talk philosophically about blah, 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 about the Bhagavad Gita, and the fact that Arjuna doesn't want, if you know anything about, read chapter 2 sometime in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna doesn't want to go to civil war with his brother, and Krishna, to me, this part of the story doesn't even matter, but Krishna says to him, you don't get to choose. You have to be of your time. And so you're going to have to go to war with your brother, right? And you're going to have to become enlightened in the next hour. Both are true, right? And so that's a very dramatic way, mythically, to try to get out the paradox, right? That you might have one part of your life be one way, or not even a part of your life. Your life may be one way, and yet there's more. There's other layers of reality, right? So putting aside the Bhagavad Gita, throw that away. Hear that, that sound of things flying and then the crash, they put something, put that aside, because I don't really care about the Bhagavad Gita there, right? That on another level, there's a paradox that is really, you hear things in yogic philosophy like, oh, you got to get past the subject and the object, and that means the ego has to dissolve, and all this stuff that just sounds like words, right? Because your mind can't really fully grasp that, right? Like, how do I not think this water bottle isn't a freaking water bottle and I'm over here and it's over there? Come on, what are you talking about, right? And yet the yoga tradition is saying, yeah, it's an illusion. They try to like give you some words there, like, and I don't know. I think this water bottle seems pretty freaking real to me, right? So the claim that this is part of the illusion and there's an underlying unity that's more true, okay, right? Like, I'm not sure they have to compete, right? I'm not sure that one has to be more fundamental than the other. They have to be simultaneous, right? So there's a constant interplay of getting to a point where the contradictions in life, right, are not where the truth lies. Doesn't mean it's not true. It doesn't mean it's not happening, right? And so circling all the way back to the experience of disability, right? Your experience, the hardship that's here, it's not like it's not a hardship, right? But the simultaneous access, not just within the hardship to have fun and have joy and stuff, that's even there's another way of being here. And I think it's actually in some ways more truthful, although this is a hard thing for me to claim, right? And I'll tell you why in a second. That there's a level of my experience that precedes everything else that's here, you know, it's at least a place for me to be. So sit up straight and tall. Start to let the emptiness be full, right? So what does that even mean? Well, what do you mean? How can emptiness be full, right? What the hell does that even mean? Except you can do it, right? If you practice enough, right? This is something, a truth that can travel from body to mind, not from mind to body. Emptiness can't be full for the mind. So the yogi is going to say, yeah, there's a part of experience where you shouldn't just think that those contradictions exist, right? One of the things I love about the yogic methodology, because it's just a methodology, right? That's all it is. It actually doesn't require me to believe anything. One of the reasons why I'm such a devout practitioner of asana is because as I practice, things are revealed within my own experience. They're not dependent on me believing one thing or another, right? And one of the things I know is that there's a simultaneity or a through line where the emptiness can be full. So what does it mean to allow the falling of the emptiness? So that's your base. So there's a twist. Sometimes B.K. Iyengar teaches a twist as let the gravitational effect affect your legs. How does that even mean? I try to parse that out, right? But in a way, he's saying there's a perpetual force here that's a falling, a dropping, right? And if I'm truthful and honest, I can start to feel it. Isn't it possible to feel heavier in your body at any time? Please nod. Say yes. Can't you feel the heaviness of your experience, right? It's harder for the mind to believe or realize, not even believe, that there's a simultaneous rising in the body. Once you see the heaviness, it's harder to realize the rising, right? And I can tell you from my 31 years of practice, it's true, right? There is a rising here. And the emptiness is actually full. And it takes someone put a thumbs up on my screen, and it actually takes realization for my mind not to get caught up in one direction or the other. So in my opinion, this is going to be a huge, I started yoga in Southern California in the midst of, not the beginning, but in the midst of the new age language and movement, right? Like she has barfy talk, that there's a force here that's going to regrow tails on salamanders. And I remember a chiropractor telling me that, trying to convince me that she should be able to use her machine on my body because it can regrow tails on salamanders. And I remember saying, I'm not really looking for another tail. Like, so if your machine grows tails on salamanders, it's not really what I'm looking for. But so that language, trying to make this level where the emptiness is full be causal and cure cancer and stop aging, that's a pile of crap, in my opinion, right? That in fact, it's here. I don't need to make it causal, right? If I'm truthful, I need not to deny it that it's here. So the fact that emptiness can be full, emptiness can fill the vessel in a way that's vibrant, that's the truth. And if I can find it in my practice, then I know it's true. So as you sit up straight and tall and feel your feet on the ground in your sitting bones, and you hear weird lines like me, like prana rewards structure. Well, it actually does. You know why? Because in order to realize the truth, you need to have conditions of safety have met, you need to have your base stable, and you need to be grounded so your mind's not over judgmental. Because that's the state of consciousness that starts to perceive or feel more of the truth. In centering, everything is revealed. I think that's probably why someone like the historical Buddha didn't do much asana, because it can actually be realized without movement. I'm an asana practitioner, right? So I'm going to want to move, but I need to be able to sit here and let it shift. Let it be lighter. So then I hear things that I wonder are true. The center of my chest is the most integrated part of human consciousness. Do I have to believe that? I don't know. I can start wondering about that, practicing with that. So I love yogic methodology. I get to practice. I get to see what I think is true. Right? I don't have to just squeeze my eyes and go, yeah, the center of my chest is the most integrated part of human consciousness. I don't have to believe that. Right? I get to watch what happens. When I have structure, there seems to be another, so I try to show you in little snippets in the drop of the ocean, things that I think that the yogic methodology is trying to reveal, which is when you find structure between the sitting bones, that's the only way to access the less tangible space in between your sitting bones. How you find your midline in poses takes practice. It's not I have a midline in every practice, blah, 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 right? It's like, find it. Take your experience seriously enough and pay attention. And then when you start doing that, you start to see that the yoga instructions in asana are only breadcrumbs, right? They're only to help you reveal. So asana, as you sit up and let the emptiness be full, which is not really possible, but it is, because there are truths that travel from body to mind and not from mind to body. That emptiness being full and being more, my feet on the floor, on my foot pedals, for me it's foot pedals, my sitting bones, I've been really practicing my sitting bones in relationship to each side of the outside, right here in my chest, and then have that connect to the empty space between the ear and each shoulder. So I've been purposely working on symmetrical points so I can feel what's beyond them or weaved into them. So again, inner heel, sitting bones, soften the inside of my mouth, soften the skin on my face. Prana follows consciousness more than it follows breath. I'm leaning on my table so I stay balanced, because once I go off balance, my mind's going to have a hard time allowing, right? So I need to stay centered. And I need to listen. What I like for me about listening rather than seeing or judging is that listening seems to me to be more open. You don't get to choose what sounds come to you, right? So the experience that travels through the midline, making sure my structure allows my mind to stay calm. The emptiness is manifested in my mouth and my face. And I'm watching the symmetry, inner heels, sitting bones, here, here, right? And I'm staying there. And I'm not, because I'm going from down to up, this whole exercise from below to above is to try to help you realize the rise that is simultaneous with the fall. The fall is already here and happening, right? Your mind has a harder time with the rise. So you're creating the conditions to see both. Now, when I do that, really makes me want to balance my head over my neck in relationship to my feet and sitting bones. Now, as I've created the structure for my congruence, I'm really now going to tune into my breath. Close your eyes if you want to. I can feel an asymmetry because my right lung somehow overrides my left lung. Interesting, because that's the one that's injured. I don't know if you have a difference between lungs, but I have to know that even though I'm asymmetrical, the emptiness is still full. Even though disability is a struggle, it still feels good. Good. And then let it change. Lift your sternum up towards your chin down over your sternum, because now you're trying to include your spine and rib cage as vehicles of the emptiness and the fullness, right? And of course, when I go to lift my sternum, I do it more with one shoulder blade than the other. I have the body here that has all sorts of twists in it. I don't regret that body. It's the only body I have, right? So I have to, like, as I realize that it's twisted and falling faster down through my right hip, that I have to see the whole and not regret the body I have. Not just with my mind, but from inside to out. Stay steady in what's true. Good. And then raise your head up with closed eyes. You know, like one of the things that as a philosopher, me trained in analytic philosophy and right, I've had a hard time having my mind allow that there's more truth here than my mind can perceive. Right? Like I should be able to understand it or putting it to words. Remember, I'm a guy that's looking for words all the time. Right? That's my job. I'm the wolf that ran off by the outside of the pack, and I'm trying to bring back words, right? And trying to lay them off at the fire and just lay off some words, right? And see what you think. So I have a hard time with that, and that's why humans develop faith, right? But I remember one time I heard the instruction in Shavasana, even let go of your teeth, or even let go of your gums when you're centering. So what the hell? Except you can do it. Lips together, teeth slightly apart. Let go of your gums first. I'm better at letting go of my gums and my teeth, right? And if I were to go back to the mind I had in 1991, I would say that was nonsense that you can let go of your gums. Now, either you can think I'm deluded or that I've practiced for 31 years. So as you try to let go of your gums, and then you can almost see how your teeth could get let go, for me. Now, what's interesting about letting go of my gums and my teeth is that does anyone feel that that's a lightening sensation when you do it? That it almost goes this way? Okay, so it's not just a surrendering like a sack of potatoes in order to let go of your gums. It's a refinement and subtlety. So as I let go of my gums, all of a sudden I go like, what would it be like to, remember I told you this before, one time my yoga teacher caught me not including my scalp in poses. What? That's nincompoopery, right? I have no idea what that means, right? But I do. So I'm going to try to like keep the lips together, teeth slightly apart, soften the tongue, all the things I usually say, let go of my gums and my teeth. But now I want to make sure my asana is the candle lighting during the drop. So I want my asana to follow the lighting of that I access when I even let go of my gums. So this gentle interplay between this inward and then the spark of action, right? So the spark. This is part of what inhalation and exhalation makes available too. You could do it with breath, but I'm trying to have you do it without focusing on your breath first. So there's a truth that's simultaneous with the fact that breath is a manifestation of this truth. Because on exhalation, you can feel the fall, right? Right? You can feel the fall on exhalation and the spark of inhalation, except that's happening even before you're breathing. How is the emptiness full? Is it full only because I breathe? Or is it full before I breathe? And my breath is congruent. I can tell I'm putting some people to sleep. You're saying, let's actually go to the asana. But now I want to go. So you've heard me say, feel your joints, right? And I've told you before that the joints have to hover. Told you a story about Gita Iyengar hovering in front of us in a class, and I think she's hovering in her joints. So as you sit here, releasing your gums, letting it be lighter, right? Can you find the hollows of your elbows? The hollows of the back of your knees? The hollows in the center of your shoulders? Can you let those hollows be full, not just empty? When you do, does your chest lift? Does your head balance over your neck? If you've studied enough asana, yes, they do. It's happening. That balance between the hollowing and the rising, I'm going to try to have my breath be congruent with. So now I want my ankles, right? I forgot to mention my ankles, damn it. So my ankles started barking at me like, hey, include me. Ankles, the hollow. The knees, the hollow, right? Hips, the hollow. Shoulders, the hollow. Elbows, the hollow. Wrists, the hollow. Let it be full now. Do you really think that it was different? Was the hollow not also a rise? So I'm sitting there in my whole body, and I'm even being able to bring it to the joints in my fingers, right? I'm sitting here going, wow, holy crimes. I want to breathe into all of it. So Angelique's being very clever by rocking a little bit. In this place that she's slightly afraid of, she wants rhythm, which is really smart. Because some of us have pain in the hollows, right? And so you're kind of afraid of the hollows. Yeah, I get it. Some of us have extreme fatigue in the hollows too. I do. I've been shaking in my hollows for a long time. I've got something wrong kind of autonomically, where my hollows are vibrating. Right? So I'm just sitting here, but I don't want that to keep me away from my hollows and the lightness in the hollows. Right? So the emptiness is full. I'm re-letting go of my gums because that's the touchstone. I'm finding my joints, the hollows. I'm making sure they light from inside to out. The hollows do. And I'm touching it all with my breath. Good, and then release. So like I had a bladder infection last week, get in some tissue. So I've been super sick. Okay. That's part of why I'm vibrating today, because I can tell systemically I'm battling, right? Like I got really fatigued in my hollow, right? And that happens, right? And so my yoga practice is revealing, just while we're doing it together, it's revealing how sick I've been, right? That's okay. I'm still here. Thank God my body keeps happening, right? Like, so I'm going to sit up and start to feel more, right? So I'm going to get that lightness here, like we always do. I'm lifting up, I'm going like, oh, right? But I don't want, if I were to do asana over the subtle vibration that's in my body now, the shaking, it would be violent. And then my yoga practice would be for my mind and not my body, right? Because I'm afraid of the house. I want to crash into it. No, I'm going to try to practice allowing that I'm vibrating, right? Like allowing it and going like, okay. So today, like, I don't want to get too physical. So we're not going to get as crazy physical until it feels safe for movement, right? Like safe with movement. So I'm just like paying attention to what's actually the truth, right? All right, and then I'm just gonna take an arm up and take it down. And I already know that part of me is falling, part of me rising. If I get, my mind gets over attached to accomplishment, I'm only gonna pay attention to the arm going up. I'm not gonna pay attention to it going down too. So I'm just gonna go back and forth. And then I want you to, like, without moving your arms, go up as you hit down.
4, 4, 3, 5, 3, 3.
Somebody's got to mute. I'm trying to remember how to mute you. Everybody, I got to more. I think it's more. I think I can mute you all. Damn it. Oh, well. Oh, I lost you. Are you there? All right. All right. I'm not as good when I'm I'm not good at technology when I'm in the other space, right? So I'm going to relax my temples and try to find. So part of what I think why our culture is wearing out our joints so fast is we're sinking in the hollows. Or not realizing the lightness in the hollows, right? This happens naturally as you age. So lean over to one side. So my legs are really spastic, right? Because I've been pretty sick, right? And so I'm going to go back and forth and up and down and up and down. So I'm trying to reintroduce my body to space, right? Taking up more space. So I'm going to take my legs wide and do it again. Just kind of like get myself wider again and just start to feel, right? I haven't been doing asanas much this week. So I'm just trying to like reintroduce, right? The fact that I can actually have the struggle and the better feeling, right? So I'm going back and forth, right? Because there's always struggle, right? So I'm bringing my legs back together. So this is why I really like the fact that yoga asana is a way for me, like, so the way I feel, I'm leaning forward, put my hands on the table, basically doing a very gentle version of down facing dog, right? Right. What ends up happening, because I have a consistent practice and have for so long, I can do the same practice and get a measure and a sensation of where I am right now, right? Without judging it, right? So it's like, I could sit there and go, oh my God, I'm stiff and I'm sore and I suck and like all that stuff. Or I could just have what's happening, right? And I'm going to now, as I'm with my hands are on the table, because I'm in a structured position, I'm going to try to have the hollows in my wrist, elbows, and shoulders, right? And I'm going to try to let downward facing dog start to emerge, right? So one of the things that's hard to do when your hands are in front of you like this is broaden across the collarbones as you lift the sternum. And as you broaden across the collarbones and lift the sternum, see if that doesn't make you want to elongate your arms, right? Elongate your arms. Find your sitting bones. Find your feet, your heels, right? And just without too much effort, unless you're ready for a lot of effort today, right? Work. Good, and then release. One of the things that I hope you're getting is for you to know how to just turn on more work without it not being just will, right? So again, put your hands on the table. I'm going to drop my shoulder blades. I'm going to start to add some rhythm. I'm going to follow Angelique. I'm going to realize that I want to move in space, right? I don't just want to make it static. I'm going to find my sitting bones, broaden across my collarbones, open the space between my shoulder blades, lift my sternum as I simultaneously feel my sitting bones and my heels, right? And now, without being over willful, because if I get too willful on the shake inside my joints, it's going to be violent. But I am going to work. I'm going to elongate my arms and feed the whole pose. I'm going to ground my heels and my sitting bones and feed the whole pose. I'm going to learn how my work feeds wholeness, both empty and full. Wholeness includes emptiness, right? It's not just full. Wholeness is both. Breathe. Good, and then release. So as I'm introducing myself back to my body again after somewhat of a lot, I like to get the changing gravities, right? So I like to start thinking, because I gotta have a good Christmas, for God's sakes, right? Because I want a good Christmas. What the hell? Good holiday season, if it's your holiday, whatever your holiday might be, right? So I'm gonna go back over my chair and go, okay. Oh, good God, right? That's a little cranky. And then I'm going to come forward onto my elbows. I'm going to make, and then I'm going to go, what the hell? Why don't I just try to do something like this? Your elbows could be on your legs too, right? My elbows are here. My hands are together. There's a triangle here. Kind of cool, actually, right? I'm going to keep my fingers up because I can, right? But I'm watching the triangle between my elbows, center of my palms. I want to include my wrists. I want to lift my chest, right? I want to drop my shoulder blades. I want to make this a whole freaking pose, right? I want to feel whole, for God's sakes. Whole without it just being effort, right? I don't want it just to be effort. If I make it just effort, I'm lapsing into violence and I'm tired, right? I'm deeply tired after this week, right? So I got to honor that. And breathe. Breathe into both sides, both lungs, both sitting bones, both heels. I'm trying to prove nothing here. I'm trying to have what is. What is here is that I'm more resilient than my mind knows. I'm more resilient than my mind knows. That's interesting. Good, and then back up. Remember, reality is not exhausted by what your mind knows. Inhale, lift up. Exhale. Now, I find this other arm and how I place it to be really important, right? So, and it's not the same from side to side. This side grabs a different place. But I got to be careful that this side doesn't go farther just because it can, right? Because I want it to have some connection to the other side, right? So I'm going to sit in this twisted position and find my midline. So kind of, I don't know if this is a literal instruction, from the back of your eyes and the emptiness in your mouth, try to like see, you can call it visualize, I feel it, where your spine is. And before you start twisting so much, some of you, are you guys ahead? Do you see my sternum way, my chin way in front of my sternum? Do you see me like way over here now? Guess what? This is the dressing part of the pose, right? Find the twist in your spine. Find it. Use elongation to increase the twist. Go from vertebrae to vertebrae. I got a couple of stuck vertebrae at the farthest point of my scoliosis. How am I going to deal with that? Right? So I'm going to have to go underneath those couple of vertebrae, above those couple of vertebrae, and try to get the vertebrae that don't want to twist. I'm not going to crank them. That's what you do when you crank your head. I'm going to actually let them be with me and figure out how to move with what resists and bring them along. If I were to go, let me just show you what it looks to get violent right now. See what I just did? I just like cranked it, went right over the top of those vertebrae because my mind wanted it, right? No, I'm going to sit here and find it. I'm going to balance my head over my neck. I'm going to find the empty corridor through my spine, right? And I'm going to start to twist it and then bring it all with me. And then if I want to, I'm going to turn my head, right? I have a hard time turning my head, having to include my whole spine. I don't know about you. It's like if I'm lazy, I turn my head too fast, right? Good, and then release. So sometimes it's okay to turn your head too soon, right? But no, when you turn your head too soon, you're like the marathon runner that starts in a sprint, right? You ran out the pace too fast. You're hoping you don't, right? There's no progress if you're at your limit too fast, right? And it's the progress that's the realization. It's not how far you get. The realization isn't in the extreme, it's in the process. That's what asana is teaching you. Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. Now here I've got a totally different arm placement because my body's different on this side. And yet I can see the integrity or feel the integrity of the twist regardless of what my body's doing. This side's I'm not as far. If I think it's about how far I get, I'm going to feel bad about this side, and I'm going to wish it were the other side. Guess what I don't want to do? I don't want to wish one side was the same as the other because I want to see what's in between. So I'm going to find on this side, because it's a little harder for me, I'm going to find my sitting bones again, my heels again, the midline again, elongate. Oh, I can feel those the muscles on the far side of the scoliosis, as farthest part of my scoliosis, they are cranking. I wish someone would put an elbow in them. I wish an elbow in them would be there so they could feel the relief of empty space. I don't want to squeeze them too tight, right? They need relief. They need space. They don't need me to squeeze, right? So I'm going to sit here and stay patient. Bring them along. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, see my spine. I said from the back of your eyes, however you go inward, from the sitting bones to the back of my eyes, that's how I see my spine. Find your own way, right? So I'm finding those vertebrae and I'm making sure they're coming with me. Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. If I want to turn my head, I can, right? I'm not gonna because it adds too much torque. Maybe you can, right? I'm staying here. Good, and then come on back to center. Oof. I just burped up the coffee I drank before class. That's the problem with twists, man. I remember one time, a very advanced yoga teacher said, I'm coming forward again. A very advanced yoga teacher said to me, one way to determine if you have a bladder infection is twist a whole bunch and see if you get a bad taste in your mouth. It's not untrue, right? But the other way is if you twist a lot, you can start to not only burp up what you've just eaten, but also like garlic will come out your pores and stuff. There's certain foods that come out of you if you twist too much, like out your skin, right? But you have to twist a lot for that to happen, right? So I'm sitting here elongating my spine, finding the hollows in my joints, letting the emptiness be full, right? Making my effort, my forearms on the table, my hands are folded this time, my forearms on the table congruent with the emptiness being full, right? I want the emptiness part of this pose. And once I do that, I naturally start to crave alignment when I let the emptiness be full. And I could tell the way that my spine, because I have scoliosis, needs to derotate. I don't know what's going on in your body. Let the emptiness being full adjust your pose. What? What kind of bullshit talk is this? Except it kind of makes sense if you practice enough yoga, right? You can start to let the emptiness becoming full show you alignment. Good, and then release. So I want to take up some space. Does anyone get smaller when they're around their family around holidays? I kind of do. I'm the youngest. I'm the injured one in my family, the physically injured one. So I tend not to take up space as much as I should. So like, how can I take up more space? So, and then take your arms down. So there's the hollows in the joints, the emptiness being full. If I can figure out how my bicep should elongate and my tricep hit into the back of my arm, I want that to bring energy and propel energy out through the center of my wrist. So I'm going to inhale up again. I'm going to focus on how to bring my upper arm towards the bone, keeping the empty. It's so easy for me to overwork my elbow. Like I got tendonitis in my elbows. It's because I strain there for balance, right? So I want the upper arm to come together and keep attention more on the center of my wrist, not on my elbow. Feel my sitting bones. Lift my side body. Breathe. Good. And then release. So I can tell by how I felt strain that I started to feel strain right across my upper back there, right? So that means I wasn't quite in balance, which is hard because no matter what I do, because my base is off balance, I'm not on balance. But I'm going to try this time to do the same movement, take up more space, right? And try not to overwork the muscles in my upper back. And instead, I'm going to try to find my sitting bones in my feet, right? Inhale up. So if you're here, that's fine. If you're done and you just want to broaden across your collarbones, that's fine. But here, I'm trying to go, okay, so I'm going to move my neck around because damn it, I don't want to go to my default. Don't want to go to where my mind thinks it solves the problem. I want to breathe into my rib cage to let there be ease around my neck and shoulders. I want to feel my sitting bones. So I'm sitting here spreading away. Here comes the fatigue. Holy cow, right? It's here. Game's on. Now, how do I win here? Good, and then release. Do I sit there and grind it down and work harder? I'm going to hold my arms up longer. Or do I go, oh, everything's okay and I don't need to work anymore? Both those answers are wrong, right? Both of them are. Again, so you're confronting, you're trying to use asymmetrical action and the fatigue that arises to show you other resources that you have in your body, from your body to your mind. Oh, there's that neck strain. It's right away now. I'm getting fatigued, right? So I'm finding that I'm not going to like try to win here, winner, chicken dinner here, right? I'm not going to try to just win here with my will, but I'm going to take these next few times to try to, maybe I defeat the whole world if I hold my arms up for a half hour. Hope you know I'm being facetious, right? Good, and then release. So one of my favorite encounters was, I was on a panel with Richard Freeman, and they asked us, in front of this crowd, they asked us, what's your favorite pose? Like, oh my God, what a dumb question, right? So there's no way to answer. Yeah, I love this one the best because blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, for God's sakes. There is a questioner that didn't think about their question, right? But Richard answered it so brilliantly. He said he talks like this. He leaned forward towards the shared mic and he said, I thought in my 20s and 30s that if I could just balance my psoas, it would lead to world domination. I could just freaking hold up my arms, the world would be slayed and I would win. Arms are wide again. I want the emptiness to be full. Alan keeps going out the arm that doesn't move. I'm so glad you don't struggle with the other arm as much. I can see your realization broaden across the space between your shoulder blades, right? And I'm gonna now not hold it so tight. I'm actually gonna have a little bit of joy as I'm hanging out here. I'm gonna see if joy actually helps the fatigue. Oh my God, guess what? It does. What the hell? You mean I have less to prove and the voices are like this? Yeah, no, I'm right. There's a whole bunch of resource here. I don't have to win, right? There's no world domination here. There's just what's happening. Good, and then release. I do like changing gravity, so I'm going to get bigger again, because remember, I'm going to shrink some this week. I know I'm going to, right? Oh, so how can I make this even more full, right? Figure out what your shoulder blade needs to do. Figure out how to have the hollowing of your shoulder blade become full and with a direction. Figure out what it means for the expansion in your hips, right? You could just crash into your hips if you wanted. Why would you? Good, and then release. So the way that emptiness starts to support action is that when your emptiness becomes full, things can get lighter, right? So I went this way, and I said, first focusing on my elbow and the shoulder, getting all that in alignment. But then I let the space, remember the class where I was saying the space right above the sitting bones needs to stand straight up and down? I just did that. We gotta go the other side. I was just trying to show you. So I'm gonna go the other way. So I'm gonna be over here, and first I'm gonna figure out how this can all be in alignment. Because my mind can only do things in pieces, right? That's the limitation of the mind. It has to do things in pieces. So it's like, I'm gonna like have my arm out, lean over. I got a gravity change. That's kind of fun, actually. I'm glad for the gravity change, right? And I'm gonna try to like, okay, I'm gonna get this all lined up. And then I'm gonna let the spaces from the sitting bones right above stand straight up and down. What the hell does that even mean? I'm letting the space in my hips be full rather than grinding empty. My mind, in order to do that, needs not to focus so much just up here. I need to let my mind quiet to find the spaces. Good, and then release. I'm gonna lift up, so want to make sure I feel those spaces, right? Put my hands on my knees, push it in, get some rhythm in there. Whew, I want some rhythm in there. Now we're gonna do the same thing with the legs wide. Oh, my legs are tight. Holy God, right? Oh, well. It's a sign I need to take my legs wide. I didn't this week as much, right? So, oh, I gotta let my body adjust to that. Oh, the muscles don't like it, right? Okay. So now I'm sitting here. I'm taking up more space, for God's sakes. I'm gonna lean back and forth and mark it with rhythm, right? So now the center of my chest starts talking to where my knees are and where my feet are, right? So I start to coordinate more of me, remember, because prana follows consciousness more than it follows breath, right? So I'm watching the coordination between the emptiness in my chest, my hips, my knees, and my heels. And I'm moving, I'm introducing asana, right? Taking up space because I'm gonna shrink, trying to make everyone else happy this week. Right? Well, it just happens in the holidays. It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. I don't need to be scornful about it. Right? But I'm gonna probably please everyone else more than me, probably. And that's part of what you do at holidays. What the hell? So what? I'm in more space and then I'm down. And then I'm leaning over. And if I need to exert myself, right? So I'm just pushing on this leg because I want my groin to open, right? I'm going to do it from a base. I'm going to let the base. So now as I'm doing this, I'm pressuring down on my own thigh, but I'm trying to like remember to feel the hollow in my hip, in my knee, in my ankle, and see if that doesn't make the hollow in the upper shoulder and the elbow and the wrist lighter. Good, and then release. You ever heard me say stuff like the empty spaces are already all integrated? The space in your joints already are connected? What? That totally screws up my mind. Except it's true in my practice, right? When I can find the hollow in one joint and make it go to all of my joints. My mind would never believe that unless it experienced it. I know how to do it. I hope you do too. I hope you've been finding more resource. Good. Your resilience. I actually think that although we like to tell the story that our minds are our most powerful advocate, or that's probably true. And it would also be true that it's the most fragile part of human consciousness. That's probably true, right? And I don't have to reconcile the two, right? I really don't. Gentle twist, right? It's both fragile and powerful. What I do know is that without my body, my mind's not very organic. Doesn't feel nourishing like a glass of water or a green piece of vegetable, right? Good. That I can tell you for sure. My mind alone feels like kind of steel wool, right? It can shine things up. It can do some things. It's important, but it's not organic. Not in the same way my body is, right? Hands on your knees. I'm pushing into my knees to find that lift before Shavasana. I'm proud of my mind, but it is like steel wool, right? It's not gentle enough. I have a proclivity towards will when it's just my mind, right? So start to practice symmetry again. Holy crumbs, my desire to accomplish has to be let go of in Shavasana. I need to just like, let it be true. Let yourself be supported. You're going to find if you want to let yourself truly be supported, your organs of perception have to soften. You're going to find that you have to let the chair hold you up. If you're taking the experience seriously, right? So it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to actually find the space in my neck again because I extra strained my neck, right? So it's like, I'm going to find this. I'm going to put my lips together, teeth slightly apart. The hollow. Remember when my yoga teacher said, let your mouth be like a cave. But I want my cave to let go of my gums, right? I don't want to just fall into the hollow. I want the hollow to become light and give relief. So I want that in all my joints. I just started with my mouth. I don't even know how to make sense of the emptiness is already full, except I can feel it. Close your eyes from top to bottom. Interesting that you have to surrender to rise in the empty spaces. Feel your breath. Don't change it. Thank your body. Think it again. There's always room for gratitude. Always. Start to bring yourself back, slightly deeper inhalation, slightly longer exhalation. When you're ready, open your eyes and then close them again. And then open them. I don't know, take the outside of your mouth up towards your ears just slightly, but do it gracefully. Bring the emptiness with and into your smile, right? These are good things. Good. So we're gonna get, and I mean this independent of whatever you believe. We're gonna get a lot of mythic language helping us activate something internally about how that the beginning, the birth, is where the hope is, right? Like that's a tried and true message, that there's a continual rebirth possible and that there's always hope in a rebirth, right? Or a beginning again. And I get that. That's regardless of your particular orientation of spiritual / religious belief, that makes sense. There's a thing I've been thinking about in this context. Years ago, I read some of the Gospels according to Thomas. I'm not particularly Christian, but there's a line in there that I keep thinking about this time of year is the disciples come up to Jesus according to Thomas. I mean, you can think it's heresy, whatever, and say, how will the end be? What will the end look like? And the reply back is, so you know the beginning such that you worry about the end? Know the beginning, and the end doesn't matter as much, right? And he talks about, heaven and stuff, but like that idea of touching up again with the beginning, not just worrying and thinking about the end. That's a really good message, regardless of your particular religious beliefs, right? So it's like, yeah, I like to know the beginning of asana and not just worried about the end of the pose. I'm going to be perpetually looking to the beginning, right? And that's how you stay curious too, right? All right, everybody, hands together. Namaste. Spirit in me bows the spirit in you.